What up? This is Rama Screen, and in the anticipation of First Date, which arrives in theaters and on demand July 2, I'm here talking with the director of this new film, Manuel Crosby. How are you, Manuel?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for taking the time. So, I understand that you co-wrote and co-directed this film with your collaborator Darren Knapp. Uh, Tell me, how does that team up work exactly, especially in the writing process? How did you both bounce off ideas of each other, and which of you actually originally came up with the story idea?
Well, we were actually together when we came up with the story idea. I was having breakfast at his house and I was having car problems. And I was just so frustrated that, every time I would buy a used car, it would just have so many problems and fall apart after, a year and a half, 2 years. And it was just so frustrating that, you never really know what the backstory of that vehicle is. You can guess, but you never really know. And so from there, I was just kind of like, that'd be a funny idea for a movie if a high school kid bought his first car and it was very problematic, had an even more checkered past than he realized. And well, what if it like got him roped into this whole crazy night of adventures? What if he's going out on a date? So we're just talking, throwing ideas back and forth, funny scenarios, weird things like twists and turns. And by the end of that breakfast, we had the plot outlined, and it was like, whoa, that's crazy. That doesn't happen a whole lot. So it's kind of just this natural back and forth of what we both wanted to see in a movie. And then from there, it comes to fleshing out the characters, and it's just kind of talking about, well, this person, I feel like, they should kind of head in this direction. What if this is their motivation? And Darren would say, oh, it'd be funny if there was this like couple that, did this thing. And what if, like, what if there's this gang of criminals? What if they have this funny connection between all of them, like something funny they can be doing? We eventually stumbled across the book club idea, but things like that. It was just it was a fun discovery process with a lot of back and forth, and really born out of a mutual love of movies and love of similar movies. We're very inspired by similar movies that got us excited about making films. And when we felt like this idea we were talking about had that same energy to it, it was game over. It's like, let's make this thing.
Yeah, it received a lot of rave reviews from Sundance. And one of the things that we all agreed on, at least the critics, that First Date kind of gives out that Coen Brothers and Tarantino vibe to it, because Coen Brothers is about dumb criminals, and Tarantino, there's a lot of standoff in Tarantino movies. Tell
Yeah.
me, were those some of the influences or inspiration for First Date?
Oh, absolutely. And, we wore it on our sleeve because we are just such big fans. And those are the movies that got us, excited. Darren and I would hang out and have movie nights and stuff. And there was something about that era of movies when, independent film was just like exploding in kind of the American independent world. And people who had never gotten chances to make movies before were just going out there and kind of breaking the rules and doing it. And you can feel that energy in those movies. And so it just felt right that that was a natural part of this one. That was the kind of the overall vibe and feel of the imagery and the sound and everything I was seeing in my head as we were talking about the idea at first. So it's kind of in some ways a love letter to those movies, but then filtered through kind of a different take. A high school love story usually doesn't get that sort of treatment. A teen comedy usually doesn't get that sort of treatment. So it was really fun to kind of put those things together and see where it went.
We can't talk about this movie without talking about the 1965 Chrysler. I mean,
Yes.
where did you get that piece of machinery? And did it always look that bad when you got it, or did you have to transform it to into looking even worse just for the purpose of this film?
Well, we actually found the car, the Chrysler New Yorker, on Craigslist, just like Mike did. And we had been looking high and low. We knew we wanted a mid 60s to early 70s car that didn't look cool, which is kind of tough. Like, we didn't want it to look like a cool classic car right away. It had to look more like a grandma's car. But then the longer you look at it, the more you would see that there was kind of a beauty to it, something that was, a nostalgic feeling that it had power under the hood, and it was really, it just had so much character. So it was tough. Um, we did make it look a little worse than it did by um, painting steak sauce on the front of the grill to make it look like oil stains or damage. And it was kind of funny because and we would also put toothpaste on it and drip water down it to make it look like water damage. And we had to redo that every time it would rain or get really humid out because it would wash away. And we shot the movie over an extended period of time. So I was out there like repainting the damage on the front. If you look closely, it probably changes throughout the movie. But other than that, and we also did add the seat cover,
Okay.
which is mentioned in the film. But other than that, it kind of just looked the way it looked, and it was. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better car.
Were there moments when during the shooting when you wanted the car to go, but it suddenly died down or break down in the middle of the production?
Oh yeah, all the time, and one of them is in the movie actually. So the first time Mike's driving the car, he comes around the corner and it stalls out. The battery died. That was
Wow.
not planned, and I'm sitting there filming, like, okay, what's he doing? So we had to push the car out of the intersection, and I just kept the camera rolling, and then Darren had to jump start it. So I
Hmm.
turned the camera, so he's in the movie there. He and our sound recordist Andrew Obgood are jump starting the car. I mean, we had so many problems. We had to leave it running for hours sometimes because if we shut it off, we wouldn't be able to get it started, and it was taking us forever to figure out all the problems that we had. But our special effects supervisor was also a very skilled mechanic, and she did so much work on that car that by the time we were done, it ran very reliably and was better than when we bought it. So, but it put us in the story and in the moment to deal with those car problems. So yeah.
Where's it now? Who has the car now? You or
It
Darren?
was, I'm not sure the gentleman's name, but it was sold to someone in the
Oh,
Bay Area, and it was
okay.
it was bittersweet to say goodbye. Part of me wanted to keep it forever, feeling like it could be a relic of this movie, and we had so many good memories driving it, and it was such a smooth ride. I had never driven a car like that before, and it was so smooth, and just the sound when you'd start it up was so musical. It had so much character to it, so it became a part of the family, I guess you could say.
The shootout scene at the end was so epic. It was like pop, 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 and you barely let your foot off the gas pedal. What were the challenges of shooting a long sequence like that that's designed to come off looking chaotic?
Yeah, so that's a great question because underneath the chaos, you actually have to have a pretty set structure. Especially when you're dealing with stunts and guns and safety and limited amount of time. So we shot most of that scene in 5 days, back 5 nights, I guess, 5 cold nights in January. So everyone's wearing short sleeves because we decided to make this movie take place in warm weather, but that's another discussion. But anyway, yeah, we shot over 5 nights. We had the weaponry, the blank firing weaponry, over 3 nights. So everything had to be planned out. It started with finding the location, figuring out all the little hiding spots and places they could go in the location. Darren and I just walking around in there, playing like, oh, what if someone ran through here? What if someone did this and that, and we can use
Mhm.
this? After that, I kind of drew an overhead diagram of like where people would go, kind of like just a bunch of pages mapping everything out, rough ideas. And then from there, we got all our actors together, just plain clothes, rehearsal day, just practicing movements, really. No dialogue, anything like that. Just figuring out, okay, this is where you guys are going to run at these times, just getting it down, drilling it, right? At the same time, I'm working with our gaffer, Cody Martin, to figure out how to light this huge space. I mean, I think he used every light he had on his van for that, and then also storyboarding every shot. So we drew out the entire sequence, and then when it came to shoot, we realized we had a limited, budget for ammunition, so we could only afford enough blank ammunition to do about 1.5 takes per every shot that a gun
Wow.
was going off. So I had to tally up on the side of each storyboard frame how many shots could be fired by each actor in each frame, and then we try to get it on take one. If we didn't get on take one, maybe we get one more take, and let me tell you, Uzis fire so fast I didn't know this. Like the clip is empty in like 2 seconds. So, and it shoots like 30 rounds off. And so that was really interesting to deal with. But,
Dang.
I'm really glad we did it because it added an intensity to everyone's performance being under pressure, and doing all the other special effects and bullet hits and blood and everything. It was so fun to like plan out those methods and then see how they come together on the set, and then in editing you make it feel very fast, very chaotic, and sometimes random, but it was so much fun to put together. It felt like that was the most complicated thing I've ever shot, and I think everybody there actually in all of our filmmaking journeys, that was like the pinnacle. So to see it come together was amazing.
I very much enjoyed it. And finally, now that you've got this feature directorial debut arriving, correct? And so, what do you guys have for us next? What are you currently developing?
Well, we're developing a few other unrelated stories. Uh, it's still a little early to talk about, but
Mm.
we have another idea for sort of a crime caper set semi-locally that could be really fun, and cause somewhat based on a true story, but it's like a story you don't really think about much. So I'm kind of excited about that. Um, and we're pitching some other things. We've been approached by a few studios to pitch some things. So I'm really excited to move forward and see what's next. I love genre movies. I love B movies that maybe have a little more at the heart and soul of them. And I just love movies that remind you why we all love watching movies, to have a good time, to be thrilled, to experience the whole broad spectrum of human emotion, and to not know exactly what you're going to get, but the great feeling that you get when you actually see it unfold. That's like paramount for me. So whatever's next, I hope it's something like that. And I'm really, really excited.
Looking forward to it. And for my fans at home, everybody go check out First Date, arriving in theaters and on demand July 2. Manuel, thank you for talking to me and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.